The Taliban is trying to enforce Sharia law in Afghanistan now that says LGBTQIA rights don't exist at all. So what do you make of the Taliban doing that, and how?
Taliban.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm sorry to cut in. What is Sharia law?
What?
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Open up the borders, let them in. Open up the borders, let them in. Open up the borders. Open up the borders. Free, free Afghanistan. Free, free Afghanistan. Free, free Afghanistan. Free, free Afghanistan. Free, free Afghanistan.
Hey everybody, I am your host Elad, and today I am reporting to you from New York City, where people are protesting over the situation in Afghanistan. Let's go talk to some protesters, see what's going on. Hi. I know it's been a very complex situation in Afghanistan the past 20 plus years. What would you have wanted Joe Biden to do differently now in how we're handling the situation?
I think the thing he can do right now is to extend the deadline. That's the simplest thing, and send more troops there to help them have a safe evacuation.
Many people are saying that's continuing the war with the Taliban. What would you say to somebody who said that?
I say we went there to take down these people. Why are we negotiating them? And he claims that we took down Al-Qaeda, we took down the Taliban, but they're regaining power faster than ever.
This one last question for you. I feel as though Americans are very confused about what Afghans actually support in Afghanistan. So what do Afghans think about the Taliban in Afghanistan?
The people of Afghanistan, they're the most humblest people in the world. The actual civilians, they just want peace. They want to learn a life without war. The Taliban do not represent Islam. The Taliban do not represent Afghan people.
One of the criticisms was the national government fell so quickly to the Taliban. What do you think of that stuff?
I think they weren't given the hope to fight nor the resources. The Taliban must have been funded from foreign allies that they were left so vulnerable.
Yeah, likely Pakistan.
Pakistan, the U.S., China, people behind scenes that are helping them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Quickly, in conclusion, was there something else you wanted to mention?
Free my people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. At this point, I know it's a very complicated situation and a complicated history, but at this point, what would you want to see the American government do differently? Is Joe Biden doing things correctly in Afghanistan now?
To my perspective, no. It was very rushed the way they left. If it was rushed, people are also saying, it may have been a very strategic move on their end. It's very weird how $85 million worth of weapons, heavy artillery, aircrafts have all been left over. And a single shot hasn't been fired back at them. It just doesn't make sense.
I know a lot of criticism has been levied against the Afghan army that supposedly fell so quickly to the Taliban. What do you make of that stuff?
So what I've been aware of is they have been funding has stopped for them. They're very low on food, very low on material. Their weapons are completely outdated from what they've been telling me. What my family out there has been telling me. I do have family in the national government and army out there.
Oh wow, that's very dangerous for them.
It is.
They're
it
all
is.
marked.
A majority have not left.
Wow.
I think we still have about 260,000 American Afghans still out there.
Can I ask you this one last thing now? In America, there's a very confused view of what Afghans think of the Taliban. Can you tell me what the average Afghan thinks of the Taliban?
To be honest, same way the Americans do. We're not for them. We're not happy about them. They're heavy extremists. They're trying to bring Sharia up into the country. That's a very, very old school mindset. Not taking away for their core beliefs, but their extremism is, heavily outweighing the true Muslim beliefs and rationale that we have.
Peace!
these countries will not be free until everyone is free, and that includes the LGBTQ community.
The Taliban is trying to enforce Sharia law in Afghanistan now that says LGBTQIA rights don't exist at all. So what do you make of the Taliban doing that, and how?
Taliban.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm sorry to cut in. What is Sharia law?
What is Sharia?
What is Sharia law?
Well, according to the Taliban, it's like the Islamic law that they're trying to enforce. So that's what they're saying, that they're trying to
Well,
enforce.
what is Sharia law?
So it's a strict Islamic law.
I don't want to speak on this. Is not like my place
Sure.
to speak on.
Could you tell me more about Sharia law?
Sharia law is an interpretation of the Quran. It's something that the people have to follow on a personal level. It is not a legislative body.
So the Taliban now is saying that they're trying to rule by through Sharia law.
Yeah, but the reason why I want to step in and talk about it is because the way that American media talks about Sharia law is incredibly Islamophobic.
Okay.
And using that language, it's kind of like kind of spreading that sort of Islamophobia.
What do you think about the way the Taliban again uses this language specifically now? Because that's where I'm citing it from.
I don't like it either.
Okay, yeah.
But citing Sharia law without explaining that it's not a legislative body is wrong.
Can I ask you this one question then? What do you think about, in your interpretation, the manipulation of Sharia law by the Taliban and Islamic extremists?
Also, fuck the Western media. They also do that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
So we are heading out.
So
So we gotta
The
wrap it up.
manipulation of the interpretation by some extremists like the Taliban who do say,
right. I think they do this to reach their political goal. Obviously, Muslims all over the world are against it. But they're trying to manipulate to get people, to get more vulnerable people to agree with them and to kind of push their own personal agenda. It's not, I don't think it's based in their belief in their religion, but either way, it's wrong. And we
so
condemn
are you
it.
against like political Islam and Islamism, the way that some people use Islam?
You have to go. We're gonna.
Okay,
All right.
well, thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time. I appreciate it. No, I'm sorry. And thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're out here in front of Bryant Park for a protest about what's going on in Afghanistan. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here with this flag?
We're here to spread some awareness about what's going on in Afghanistan, the Taliban takeover. We're here to fight for our people who's stuck there right now, who's unable to even access their banks to get some food and water. We're here to protest all the women's rights that are about to be stripped away from them. We're here to protest, the children, their basic needs. We're here to protest the 7 explosions that happened at the Kabul airport yesterday. We're here to fight for all these Afghans that are stuck there, that everybody's borders shut us off from.
I understand it's an extremely complex humanitarian disaster going on in Afghanistan now. A lot has been made about how we've handled the situation. What do you think Joe Biden should have done differently, if anything, regarding the situation now?
Joe Biden should at least keep his promise. He made an empty promise. He needs to go back and, he needs to go evacuate all American troops that are still stuck there, all American citizens that are still stuck there. I have family that's American citizen, they're stuck there.
Wow.
He shouldn't have taken out everybody. Joe Biden should have given us a heads up so people could have, taken necessary protocols to get out of there instead of surprising everyone immediately and pulling out, as many people as he possibly could. But no, it could have been executed a lot more organized.
I wanted to ask you, it seems like Americans have a confused view of what Afghans actually want in their country. The Taliban is the de facto government there now. What do Afghans think of the Taliban?
Afghans are not for the Taliban. The Taliban are not Afghan. They're not Afghan. They are an extremist sect. They believe in the Wahhabi school of faith. They are enforcing a version of Islam that does not even exist. We are not against that. We are against that. They're against women's rights. They're against women obtaining education. They're against women working. They're not here.
So let me follow up and ask. Another criticism has been that the Afghan army has kind of deteriorated so quickly to the Taliban. Obviously, it's a horrible situation. What do you think of that happening so quickly, the way the Taliban just swept through the country?
Well, that just comes to show what a poor job America did. Apparently, these past 20 years they've been in Afghanistan, they spent over $3 trillion funding our Afghani army. Where is all this? Where did all these funds go? They did not do a good job. In fact, the Taliban have came and they've taken over all ammunition, all of the tanks, all of the military bases in Afghanistan. It was handed over to them. They took our country without a single shot fired in retaliation. It's not fair. This was all a setup. Our president sold our country to them, handed it over, didn't even allow our people to fight or give one shot in return.
You have a sign that says, Afghanistan, we stand with you. U.S. must act now. Sanction Pakistan, stop Taliban. Can you tell me a little bit more about your sign and why you're out here?
Well, the main reason why the Taliban still exists is because it's being funded by Pakistan. And the close relations between the U.S. and Pakistan, they can do something about it, but they're not. So this is why that's the crux of it.
As I understand, Pakistan's been funding Taliban for a very long time. This isn't being talked much about in the media. Why do you think that is?
I think because they're a nuclear power, they're an ally of the U.S., and it would just be an admission of the U.S.'s involvement in a terrorist organization that we've been fighting supposedly for the past 20 years, and now we are handing over the government to them.
I know it's been a very complicated situation there, and this withdrawal has been complicated. What would you have wanted to see Joe Biden do different, if anything?
Plan it out, sanction Pakistan, give the opportunity to the people who have been standing by the U.S., who have been supporting the U.S., who are happy that the U.S. were involved because they're being bombed anyway. There's violence there anyway. But at least when they were there with the Taliban, something was changing. There was an opportunity for women to get an education, to have their rights. But now the U.S. is just withdrawing suddenly, not addressing, at least address it. At least address what's happening. We're not seeing the Biden administration addressing anything.
At the beginning of the withdrawal, as I understand, the National Army was supposed to be able to fend off the Taliban. Why do you think the National Army fell so quickly to the Taliban?
They were told not to fight. The government itself left. It wasn't that they couldn't. They were told not to. They were told to stand down.
I feel like Americans have a confused situation of what Afghans on the ground believe. What do Afghans on the ground believe about the Taliban government now?
They know that it's been being funded and housed by Pakistan, and that the U.S. has close relations with Pakistan, and they can do something about it. They are aware of that. Most of the world is aware of that. The media, for whatever reason, is not talking about it.
Are the Afghan people against extremist groups like the Taliban throughout the country?
Yes, of course. They're not happy. Otherwise, why would there be such a panic? Why would everyone want to leave if they're happy with it?
So we're out here today outside the UN, a few blocks away, and you were out here because of the situation going on in Afghanistan. You have a sign that says Afghanistan is bleeding. Can you tell me more about that and why you're here?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that the Taliban has came and taken over Afghanistan, and what that kind of means is, I mean, they're Islamic extremists, right? So they don't, in their mind, in their interpretation of Islam, women shouldn't be outside without a male supervision. They shouldn't go to school. They can't, and because they can't go out without male supervision, they can't work. They can't provide for themselves. They're expected to cover way more than is actually necessary, and they obviously the Taliban are. They didn't want the U.S. to be in Afghanistan, so they're targeting anyone who has worked for the U.S. government, which is thousands of Afghans over the course of 20 plus years, because they were really involved back when the Soviets were there. So they're targeting all of those people and going to kill them, right? And also any woman who doesn't follow their ideas of Islam, they'll be targeted as well. Women who try and get an education are targeted. All these people, their lives are in danger, and that's why we say Afghanistan is bleeding.
Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. Let me know what you thought of the video down in the comments. If this is your first time here, guys, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, stay barely informed.